Hi, I'm Melissa Bunch.
And I am Paul Bunch.
Welcome to Spirit Code. Okay, today we're going to talk about a couple different things. One, we thought we would talk about some energies. And in addition to that, we've never talked to you guys about the forgotten memories. So we thought we would talk about that today as well.
Or if we have, it was just in passing, just a brief discussion on it.
Yeah. It's one of those at this time unfinished, but it really doesn't need to stay unfinished. It's more, I just haven't perfected.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't gone through and made it the way it needs to be so that you can't miss anything. Like a lot of times when we look at our energies, I want to make sure that it's really simple. You don't miss anything. And it's all organized and laid out. And that one's not quite yet organized and laid out, but the steps are there. It's just not laid out the way I want it to be. So the forgotten memories is definitely going to be an exciting one. And then we have had a lot of people with questions about our energies. So we thought we would touch base on that too. But I think we'll focus on forgotten memories first.
Yeah. But I also want to add to that these forgotten memories, we're learning more about them. And we're also learning about the significance behind them. Like the more that we learn about it, I think just the more impressed we are about having them remembered.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we're always learning something new. And I do want to remind you guys that we're always adding to the program. And so every time that we were like, okay, we're complete, the manual is going to, like, the third manual is going to be ready to go, like I said, but then we're going to start working on the fourth manual. and then even that's going to have something more that we're adding. So I just want to always remind you that we're always adding. And that is what we're working on. We are working on including it all in a fourth manual. And in that fourth manual, we're organizing it into the different sections, of course, that we're adding to. So I see that to be like a fantastic, opportunity, because it means that we're always listening and always growing and seeing what Heavenly Father has to teach us. Maybe one day there'll be like 15 manuals and each one 500 pages. It's going to be like you're going to need a crane to pick them up.
Yeah, that third manual is still a ways to go.
It won't be that many. I don't think that we'll have that many before the second coming.
But we were kind of discussing
that would be really overwhelming
a long time ago, how we're just barely scratching the surface of the healing energy type of opportunities and knowledge that are available to us. We're just barely scratching the surface with what we know.
But one thing that I do hope all of you guys can get towards is that in, like, let's say you're in the preparatory steps. Okay, in the preparatory steps, it's, just removing the self-destructive tools can take, 7, 8, 9 minutes or something. And if you're doing preparatory steps and you're doing it for an appointment, like if you're working with somebody, that could take a really long time. And so something I want you guys to kind of start getting familiar enough with is what these look like. So when you're doing some of those steps, closing your eyes and seeing what that weapon or tool looks like, and what that process looks like, because we're usually converting it or releasing it. So when you do that, what you're doing is we're really finding a way to get that subconscious mind, conscious mind, and spiritual mind all functioning as one. And when we can do that, we're like, the subconsciousness isn't, thinking it knows better. And I like to be spirit-led, but I still want it to be like a mutual respect. That you can close your eyes and you can see the steps as opposed to reading the steps. And then one day it'll get easier and easier and easier. And that is kind of where I just kind of want to bring to your attention that we can't skip the steps. We can't skip it as, okay, Heavenly Father, angels, can you guys just remove all of the preparatory stuff and all of the, all of the different things that are influencing whatever body part it is that's causing you trouble. Because there's a growth opportunity. There's a learning opportunity that we need to take part in as well.
Yeah. And as we've talked about before, how if you don't understand what got you into that situation before, then you're going to repeat that pattern.
Right.
And so
Heavenly Father's not going to clean it up, and because he wants us to still learn. We found that he cleans up bits and pieces when we do that, but he still wants us to learn certain certain components. So
Yeah.
there's reasons why we don't want to skip, but there are ways that you can do it more efficient and quicker once you understand what each of these look like.
Yeah. And sometimes you may remember in the scriptures when Jesus offered healing, he would heal the person, and then before they departed, he would say, sin no more. So don't fall back into your old patterns with that.
Which we still do, but
Yeah.
it gets better and better and better. Okay. So that was something I wanted to kind of touch base on a little bit, but there's also something else before we start talking about the forgotten memories that has been on my mind. So I had kind of like an aha moment, and you guys, it's like one of those logical aha moments, but I saw it from a more godly perspective. So it was an aha in that way. Like I said, you might be like, yeah, but seriously, like seeing it from God's perspective, it really was kind of like oh, I get it. So a lot of times we get frustrated with the fact that our bodies are getting older, wrinkly, fat, slow, saggy, soft, whatever it is that you don't like about what your body is doing right now. Maybe you've got, we've just got a lot more limitations the older we get. One of my mother's limitations, if she's listening right now, has been, even if it is something as like a heavy cleaning or picking up one of the grandkids, it's like torn like her shoulder muscles or whatever. So little things that she used to always be able to do, and her body can't do anymore. And I was thinking about that this morning, like the difference between when you really are in spiritual distress, or when you really do have an energy or a curse or a contracted spirit, or something emotional or something physical, some sort of toxin, anyhow, all those different things that we can do, we still have the component of the fact that our bodies are aging. They're slowing down. They have more and more limitations as we age. And I was thinking about it in relation to the second coming. And one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot is that during the second coming, I really do believe that when we are in a Christ-like mindset, when we are, all of our thoughts and all of our emotions are Christ-like, like we've talked about so many times, that is like our biggest overall goal, is to really be ready for that second coming in a way that our memories and our thoughts and our emotions are as Christ-like as, when he was being put to the test. He still responded with praying that his enemies would be forgiven. It wasn't, please make them stop. Please help them to know that I've done nothing wrong. He was praying in such a way that he obviously loved even the people that were torturing him enough that he wanted God to forgive them. He didn't even himself say, I forgive you. Like, I forgive you. Like, he wasn't passive aggressive. You could tell that those emotions were truly loving. And instead it was, Heavenly Father, please forgive them, for they know not what they do. And so upon reflecting on that, I keep on thinking that when we are to that place, when we can truly love while thinking of our past, and then escalating into truly loving everybody, even during the trauma, while that person is persecuting and yelling and harassing and possibly harming you or your family, even loving them then, seeing them in a godly perspective. But I think that everything that Heavenly Father does, he's teaching us in a simple manner first. Like, he doesn't just put us here and say, okay, boom, figure out how to get along. I think that he starts with our body. And I had like this, because I've always known, like back when I was a teenager and I had an eating disorder, that I had one of these, how can I love other people if I don't love myself moments. And I thought, if God made this body and he made me and he's commanded me to love others and forgive others, how can I do that if I don't even love myself? Love your neighbor as thyself. It's like, well, I don't love me. So if I don't love me, how can I love others? And I remember really, really reflecting on how important that was to love myself at all times. And so there was kind of like this shift yesterday where I started thinking about aging and wrinkling and sagging and gaining weight. Like when we hit that older midlife, like 40, 50s, our bodies don't burn fat the way that they used to. The hormones shift, and then all of a sudden more changes occur. And then, there's the emotional component. We got the physical component, of course. And so I'm kind of tying this all together, that I believe that God is teaching us how to love something that is imperfect. And yes, our bodies were created perfectly, but they are wrinkling. They are sagging. They are getting softer. They are getting slower. There is a lot of limitations that these bodies have. And I've been thinking more and more that this is a lesson on how to love something that is imperfect. So it's almost like we start with a young, youthful body that is easier to love. Kind of like a baby. You get a newborn, and then they hit toddler. and you already fell in love with them as a newborn, so you can put up with the toddler phase. And then they become teenagers, and it's like, well, I already love you, so I can put up with stuff that, might have been a little bit harder to put up with. And so I was kind of thinking about that, like in relations to our bodies, that, you get a young, youthful body, but it does age. It is not something that we're here to stop. And it can't fly like your spirit can. Your spirit can go anywhere. This body's like bound. You can't fly. You can jump, but you can't fly. Your spirit can travel at the speed of thought. Your body has to get on an airplane, and it takes like 10 hours just to go from here to there. And so we have a lot of limitations. And I think Heavenly Father is teaching us a level of love and patience for imperfection. And like I said, I know that the body is created perfectly, but I also recognize that we have a lot of limitations and aging, and then the changes, constantly changing, that it never actually stays the same. And so I was kind of reflecting upon what is the bigger understanding that he's trying to help us to get to? Like, is he trying to help us to understand other spirits? Is it in our training to become a Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father that we are learning how to, love others when they're making bad choices, when they're not perfect, when they have, mental illness or whatever it is that's afflicting them, but starting with ourselves and then working outward. So I was reflecting on how can I love that aging process more? How can I love myself when I'm imperfect, when my body is imperfect, when I have certain limitations? And if we really want to advance towards that perfection state when Christ returns, I think that we need to get this first. I think that if God gave us this lesson, we need to get this lesson. We need to understand it. We need to embrace it. And then we can move on. Whether or not that state during the second coming is translation or changing in a twinkling, there's a lot of different theories out there as to whether or not during the millennium that we will all be translated or not. But I think that is a really important step. We get so many calls from people who want to stop something that is natural. And so I just thought, instead, let's embrace what's natural and clean up what needs to be cleaned up, like kind of organizing and seeing the difference between, what is the darkness that's influencing you versus what is a tool to get you ready for the second coming. That's all. I just kind of saw it and felt it like in a, oh, I get it type of moment. Yeah, exactly, Helen. Like really just embracing your age, embracing who you are, and those limitations, learning how to love something that's imperfect. So
I kind of like a comment by somebody who we were working with, and she called it like, excuse me.
We should try talking before our class.
I know. She referred to her body as perfectly imperfect, and I like that. So, yeah, it's there for learning purposes. So it's the perfect learning tool. Mm-hmm. But it still appears to be flawed.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty common thing that us women are working on, but I think we still struggle with it. You know, we might be able to say that, you know, that I'm perfectly imperfect, but then we still tend to emotionally struggle with those changes that have taken place. Okay. Let's talk about those forgotten memories. I think those actually tie hand in hand kind of nicely, actually, because I think that's probably something that we came to Earth understanding, and then we forgot as soon as we started aging. Okay. You want to actually pull up the document?
Well, yeah, let's do that.
Hey, you guys. So once again, if you did not know, we do have some unfinished material. And when it gets finished, it gets moved out of that section and put most likely in either energies or in advanced. So if that's something you were ever like, oh no, what happened to the false organs? It's like, oh, well, you know, well, they're not finished. Which one did I finish? Junk energy. It's like, where's junk energy? And it's like, oh, it got finished. It's in with the energies. Yay. Okay. So forgotten memories. We just want to let you know, we're not referring to pulling out a repressed memory of something that, you know, we have repressed. And this is it's a different perspective. So you want to go ahead and explain it?
Well, so I'll just explain in my own words. I'm not going to read through what we have in there. You can do that on your own. But like I said, our understanding is becoming broader with this. And so here's the thing. When we come to this earth, we are given a certain set of memories from the pre-existence. So we come into this earth and we continue to develop new memories based upon new experiences. Okay, so we're going to have some from pre-earth and some from our time here on this earth. And they're both important because they're part of us. They're part of who we are. And these memories will continue to... Was there a question? Okay, so...
Okay, go ahead.
So as we continue throughout this life, we're also going to associate each experience that we currently have with a past memory. And so it kind of works into being part of like a core belief. And so these memories, they could be positive or negative, and they could actually be positive and you view them as being negative, okay, and vice versa. And so these memories, once again, they are part of you. And if you recognize, like in our energy releases, as an example, like in the dark energies, we convert the memories into positive memories. We don't get rid of them. We convert them and then we distribute them throughout our spirit, mind, body. And so we continue to use these. And these memories, when we forget them, is something that we need to recognize that it's part of us that we've forgotten. And this is, for the most part, due to rejection. Not always. We're going to talk about a few different situations with this, okay? So let's say you're going along in life, you're learning different things, and you like who you are. Let's say you have a memory of being, I'll just throw it out there, like lighthearted. I'm kind of lighthearted, actually. And I'll just throw that out there as an example, that my lightheartedness doesn't always come across professional in the workplace. And so it would be looked down upon like I'm not serious, or I'm just kind of taking that as a little bit of a joke. And so in my line of work in the military, my line of work was in intelligence. And so I had to actually be taken serious when I was doing my briefings or putting together the work that I was doing. And so if I didn't have the respect of the commander or the staff, because I was joking around and goofing off and wasn't taken seriously, when I did my briefings, then they wouldn't necessarily take those briefings seriously as well. And so when I did this, I noticed when I goofed off and messed around, like the senior leadership, they didn't take me serious. And so I recognized that if I was doing that, I've got to kind of reject a portion of myself, kind of suppress who I felt like I was inside and, who I, like being. And
you really are. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I when I started doing this, I'm like, oh, I don't like doing this, but to get by, I think this is what I need to do. Kind of grow up is kind of the way that I saw it as, is putting away the childhood inside of me and being responsible and getting the work done. And so with that, I feel like
You've done that before?
I feel like it was expected of me to forget who I was. And it was hard. It's a natural reaction within me to just be lighthearted and play around. And so anyway, I noticed time after time when I felt myself slip, I'd have to take a step back. And then I remember at some moments, like I'd get around new coworkers, and they'd be like, "You're always so serious." I'm like, "Oh, don't even go there." I'm like, "Why do you think I'm so serious?" Like, I'm just trying to get the work done. I'm like, I want to make sure that you know that I'm that you can rely upon me. And so anyway, I kind of found this kind of funny, and so
because it's so uncharacteristic.
Yeah,
that was
exactly so uncharacteristic.
So what he's getting to is that at that point he forgot that he had a sense of humor.
Yeah, that's what I was beginning to realize, is that if I continue to suppress this and reject it, that I'm really gonna lose out on a really important aspect of who I believed that I was.
So where we are here is we kind of want to talk about how deception plays into this. So the adversary likes to put his hand in everything, right? And so many people are like, I'm so afraid of deception. I want to kind of show you where in that story the deception would play out. So let's say another 5 years in the future, he has some repressed memories. He has some repressed memories over the work that he did in the military, some of the different, serving as commander, serving, in different places in the military, and some of the different traumas that occurred. So the deception would be where if he's focusing on what was that repressed memory? Oh my goodness, there was something that happened when I was 28, when I was serving in the military, and there was this big trauma, and I just cannot remember it. It just doesn't feel good, and yada, yada, yada. That is, that is the wrong focus. The focus that we want to take on is going to be the one that's of light. So the one of light is going to be, okay, my whole life, I was this lighthearted, fun, silly, happy person, and then a trauma came in, and I changed. And I became a very serious, very grumpy, very, you're not grumpy, but I'm using that as an example type of person. And so how can I realign and come back together with who I am, learn the lesson from the trial, but not have it change me in a dark manner, if that makes sense. I can give you another example if that's okay. Is that okay? Or did you want to say any more?
Yeah. So I think the point is that you're looking at yourself, you're not happy with the results, and so you start rejecting who you are. Right. Okay? And this is not natural, because you have a natural personality, and you're not sticking with the true nature of who you are.
Right.
And so that's the important part. That the true nature of who you are is where you actually are able to thrive the most.
Yeah. So, yes. Good. Okay. So another example, if it helps to see it from a more girly perspective. So let's say, as a little girl, you wanted to have babies, and you wanted to fall in love, and you wanted to have like that romance fairy tale, and you're like, I'm going to get married, and we're going to have babies, and we're going to live happily ever after, and we're going to be best friends. And I'm going to stay with the kids, and he's going to go to work, but I'm going to have, I don't know, different plans that maybe you had for what you wanted your life to look like. And maybe this was really important to you. And you meet the guy, you fall in love, you're like, this is fantastic, it's happening, whoop, 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 right? And then and then you go to have kids and you miscarry. And then you try again and you miscarry and you try again and it's just not working. You're infertile for a very long time. And it weighs on you and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And before you know it, and we were actually, this is probably, I don't want to do too much on one person's story. Let's say that sometime around 15 years later, you kind of lose sight of that dream. You lose sight of that dream of having children. You feel like it's just too late. It's not going to happen for you. And it's brought like an intense sorrow and loneliness and darkness to you. And in reality, who you are is this wonderful woman who is designed to create life. You are designed to love. You are designed to connect with other people and to have babies. Like that's what we do here, right? We learn how to love each other. We make a connection with other people and we create. And it's this deep down desire within people. And okay, I'll read a little bit more in just a minute. So what's important to recognize is that these traumas, these trials, these difficulties that we're going through are important to learn from, but we don't want to lose who we are. And most of the times we forget, I am a divine, beautiful woman who is created to love and connect and trust and honor this body and love and trust this amazing person that I've chosen to be with and to create children. And that is what you've forgotten. It's not necessarily, I repressed one of my miscarriages, or I repressed another trauma that we need to pull out that forgotten trauma. So, there are so many different ways that this can show up in your life. Okay. So many ways that you can kind of look around and like, I don't know. I'm just disconnected. I'm sad. I'm just not myself. I'm not who I really want to be. And you're going, why is it that I feel so, lost or disconnected? And there's just something off. Right. So we need to shift our perspective. Like I said, the deception is to focus on the trauma. The light is to help us remember who we are and to learn from the trauma. So that is where we kind of want to focus on a forgotten identity, memory. Yeah, maybe. Multiple different ways to kind of look at how this influences people. I think that when we've come across anybody who has forgotten, God's plan for them, and kind of just gotten off track. A lot of times remembering what was the purpose in the first place. Who are you? Who are you really like? Do we need to go all the way back to the pre-existence where, still innocent before any battles have occurred in heaven or before any difficulties have come about? How far do we need to go to remember who we truly are, to get 100% in alignment with our divine destiny and our purpose? Okay.
So there's several examples that we could talk about as far as the forgotten memories that Melissa and I have worked on and bringing back. So how about we just throw out one of them? Do you remember the one where your brother, when Melissa was rather young, I think maybe not even a teenager yet, her brother called her fat?
But you know what? That one I did. If you guys haven't done the emotional memory release tapping, that one is directly connected to emotional eating. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. Like as soon as I was in one of those, I just need something to eat. I don't know why. I'm not hungry. I'm not even craving. I just need to eat something. And I went through the emotional memory release tapping sequence, and that was the one that popped up. But I think it probably would be connected as a forgotten memory as well. Yeah. That's a really good
I think we have it referenced in our program. I think it's one of the examples.
We're not sharing screen. if you don't mind.
Okay. So
it's your phone.
We do have a few examples in here.
What that one was, and it's kind of silly. It's a tiny little example, but it was just that I never really saw myself when I was like, because I was probably like 10 at the time. I hadn't even had puberty. I didn't even have hips or boobs yet. And I had said something along the lines, because there was a picture, like a little, what was it? It was the pictures that print out immediately. A Polaroid picture. And I just wrote on it, I am so fat. And he wrote, how very true. And and I was like 10. And the thing is, there was a handful of different little things like that. Like I used to love to come home from school and eat green beans or spinach. And how many teenagers want to come home and eat green beans or cook spinach? Like that's not exactly a common thing. But for me, that was like one of my favorite snacks when I came home. And so he had like even made a comment to me once, because I would like to put garlic salt and a little bit of butter on. I know I was a skinny little girl. And so I would put like butter and garlic salt on the green beans. And he once came up to me and he's like, nobody's ever going to want to kiss you because of what, because you eat like that. And so I connected it to eating. And years later he said, no, it's because of the garlic. And I'm like, oh, that never dawned on me. I thought it was because I put butter, which was extra fat, and because I was eating, and that, it was making me fatter. And so, the things that we do, and for me, the eating disorder wasn't only tied to those couple of things, but, the eating disorder that I had did last for a very long time. And it really did cause a lot of disruption between me loving my body. And I had to kind of go back and be like, okay, what happened? What was the event that happened? Okay, the event that happened was little brother comments that, looking at it from a mom's perspective now, I'm like, oh, my kids talk like that all the time to each other. Brush it off. Don't let it bother you so much. But in the time, it really, really directed how I felt about myself, because he was a boy. It's like I was living in the same home with a boy who knew other really cute boys. He had some really cute friends. And if he thought that there was no way anybody was going to ever kiss me or ever be interested in me because I was like too fat and here I was like really thin at the time, then, obviously something needed to change and I couldn't eat at all. And so we want to look at what happened, like what age did something happen and what did you forget? So at the age of like 10, he started making fun of me and calling me fat. And that kept going on all the way until he realized I had to go to the hospital for an eating disorder. And he's like, oops, I probably shouldn't talk like that anymore. But it took him probably like 7 years for it to get through to his head that he could not make fun of his sister's weight without it really affecting me. And so it has taken me many years to love my body, no matter what size it is. And like I did come to this whole, I would rather be fat and happy than skinny and miserable. Like that was a big epiphany that I had to come to so that I could allow myself to eat without, doing some of my bad habits. So what we want to do is, like, kind of like I said, get back to, okay, the trauma started at this particular age, and how can I see that person in a more Christ-like way? Because I don't need to focus on frustration or annoyance for that trauma or that person and how they affected me. If anything, we can invite that light of the atonement to come in, and I can look at it in a different perspective now. I can look at my brother and be like, oh, that actually was a really minor comment. Did I seriously allow a comment that little to like affect so many years of my teenage life and cause me to hate myself for so incredibly long? Like, are you serious that I gave that much power? But I'm also looking at it from a more grown-up perspective. In the time, it was really huge. So it really did direct my life. But if I can attach to who I was before and be like, okay, I forgot that.
Now, this is the important part.
I forgot that I always loved my body, that I was really kind of joking around whenever I said that, but, and then he agreed with me. But I forgot that I'd always loved my body. I forgot that I could eat and not worry about, what would happen. I could eat a piece of pie at Thanksgiving, and I never even thought twice about what was going to happen next. I was in a place where I guess I was just a little bit more free to love without worrying about what everybody else thought. And at that time, as soon as somebody else started putting their opinions on me, I started caring what somebody else thought. But before that, I didn't really care what somebody else thought. If I ate pie and I was a little bit, I gained a couple of pounds, okay. Like, it didn't bother me before that. Now, yeah, granted, I was younger, but I don't want to lose who I am, because that is who I am. I am the kind of person who loves myself no matter what, loves this body, takes care of it, does what I need to do to love and take care of it without worrying about everybody else's opinion or without changing who I am to please somebody else. So that's who I forgot. I forgot that I love me regardless of what other people think.
Yeah. So another thing about this is that our bodies recognize the changes. So think about this as you shift to another thought process, it's not going to be as healthy as the one previous. Even though you may think that it is, it's not, your body's not going to respond to it in the natural way that you would with the previous memory that was your original memory.
Right, the original you.
So this is what leads to a breakdown in the body. Whether we realize it or not, this is actually really important.
And taking that step to really, I choose to love my brother because he's imperfect too. And I choose to forgive him, and I choose to not offer that power to somebody else to take away who I am. I choose to see that as really just a growing tool to learn how to love others more complete. And so that's where the document is kind of incomplete. So we need to make sure that we are addressing the loving the person that is involved in that trial or trauma with us, loving the feeling grateful, I guess, for that opportunity, that growth opportunity, being able to, come to terms with that trauma. So there might be some trauma steps that we may have to do to really be able to come to peace with that lesson so that you can really become one with who you've always been. And I think it's kind of turns into like a merge. You are now a combination of your growth experience, of who you used to be, what you could learn in a godly perspective from that trial, having that light of the atonement really, really affect you, but also inviting and incorporating who you've always been into who you are now as well. So that we don't because sometimes we just turn our backs on it. I recognize when it comes to like food, I've turned my back on who I used to be, because I'm around so many people. I don't want to be like, I still to this day struggle because I love garlic, salt, and green beans. Like, it's some of my favorite foods still. And I struggle. I was realizing the other day I made myself some green beans and I was just seasoning it with salt. And I was like, now why am I doing that? I love garlic salt on my green beans. Why am I doing just salt? Is it because I'm kissing a boy? And if that's the case, I want garlic salt. Like, that's not going to harm anybody. I want to be me and I want to be true to myself. And so I put garlic salt on my green beans. And I don't think that he had any problem with it at all. He never said anything. But so does that make sense? We want to kind of create a new normal where you are kind of a combination of who you've always been, who you were before that trial, what lesson you learned from the trial, and like the way that it helped you to grow, and then, who you are now, being able to kind of create like a merge with that, like reintegrating that forgotten part of you that we've kind of rejected that part of ourselves.
Yeah. So I want to make a note of Helen's comment. She says that our subconscious mind remembers the old. So one thing about this is that the memory is not just forgotten, it's actually removed. It's not even in your subconscious mind anymore. Okay. So You can't
like it can be hard. Well, it can be really hard. Like you might be able to sit there and be like, no, I do remember that. But I have to say, you guys, when I'm focusing on that and I'm like, no, I do remember not worrying about other people's thoughts. But it's really stinking difficult to feel that, to really get it. Does that make sense? Like it's one thing to just reflect on it and say, yeah, I remember a time when it didn't seem to bother me. But reintegrating that part of you, it's like it's lost. It's like it's not there anymore. Being able to actually grab it, it feels like it's borderline impossible to grasp it. Like you can't actually, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe this. I hope you guys get it. It's very difficult to be able to reintegrate because it's just not there. Like we thought that the lesson, and this is kind of once again that little bit of deception. We thought that the lesson was I was wrong for loving garlic and butter on my green beans because it means that no boy's ever going to like me. So I turned my back on that part of me and totally rejected that part of me. And so it's just kind of a really hard thing, like to the point where if I make myself, I know this is the silliest little example, right? But you know, it's better than a huge trauma. It's really difficult to put garlic on my green beans. Or in other words, now the infertility story wasn't me, it was somebody else that we worked with. And I was trying not to give too many of her personal details, but I have also had, so my last bit of pregnancies, 2009, I had a pregnancy that we made it, you know, sometime around 18 weeks along, and I felt a pop. And we went into the doctor a day or two later, and there was no heartbeat, and the cord had wrapped around his neck 3 times, and as you guys all know, that was like my beautiful story, that was the angel David that I'd seen back when I was a little girl. But we delivered that baby, and I got pregnant almost right away, and in that pregnancy, I was in a very difficult relationship. I don't know if I have any of my little ears listening. So I was in a very difficult relationship at the time, and ended up having preeclampsia and a stillbirth, and very, 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 very traumatizing. And according to the doctor, he said that that my uterus would not stop hemorrhaging, and he said, oh, I'm going to cry. He said that any other doctor. Now, let me kind of take a step back just a little bit. I was in the hospital at like 7 or 8 in the morning, something like that. I can't remember exactly what time it was that we actually showed up. I think my kids called my parents with an emergency around 7 a.m. So by the time the doctor actually saw me and he was doing the C-section, it was probably about 8. And he told me that 7:30 is what my mother said by the time the doctor was doing the C-section. He told me that he normally would not have been there. I would have gotten the on-call doctor. I'm going to cry. I'm doing a little bit more than just going to cry. But he said that during the night he ended up being called in, and he was called in doing a stillbirth just before he came in. And he literally had just finished. Like you could see he'd been crying, and he looked as white as a ghost, and he had just finished. And they called him into my room, and I'm bleeding. And it was like this double whammy for the guy, 2 stillbirths back to back. And it was very hard on him and me, of course. But he told me, he said that, he's like, this is very unusual. He goes, I'm never here at this time of day. I mean, rarely, you know, I'm sure at times he delivers during the night, but, or super early in the morning, but he's like, you know, you would have gotten the on-call doctor. And if the on-call doctor had done this emergency C-section, I wouldn't have just woken up with a dead baby from that C-section. I would have woken up with a dead baby and a hysterectomy. And can you imagine how upsetting it would be to be full term, giving birth, rushed into an emergency C-section, and waking up not just to a stillborn baby, but waking up to a stillborn baby and no way to ever get pregnant again. And he said that during the C-section that he couldn't get me to clot he said that I was just hemorrhaging blood so badly that all the other doctors were saying, we have to do a C-section. Like, she's going to die if we don't do a C-section, or a hysterectomy, or she's going to die. And he was like, no, just wait. And he just kept saying, just wait, just wait. And he said he waited an extra couple of minutes, even though I had to have 6 blood transfusions because my blood loss was so bad that I was borderline going to slip into a coma. So I was like a level 3, I think. And I think they said or maybe I was a level 4. Level 3 is coma. You're supposed to be like above a 10 on your blood count. And so anyhow, he waited and waited and waited. And he said, I finally clotted. And so he was able to save my uterus. And so when I woke up, he told me about that. And it was one of those, oh my goodness, so full of emotions in that event. There's so much to that, but there was so much trauma to my body. And I got pregnant. He told me, he said, do not get pregnant for at least a year. Your uterus is not strong enough. It's not healthy enough. But my husband at that time knew that I had one foot out the door, and that I left him during that pregnancy. He knew that if I didn't need him, that I probably would leave. And so he didn't allow my birth control methods to exist at that time. He sabotaged all my birth control methods. And so I got pregnant 2 months later. And so the doctor put me on hospital bed rest for like half the pregnancy. And at the end of the pregnancy, like, we delivered about 5 weeks early. And he said, because he asked me, would you like to wait another week or a couple more days? And I'm like, no, I think it has to be today. And he said, well, pray about it. And I said, I did. And I don't know why, but I feel like it has to be today. And he told me, he goes, Melissa, obviously that was from God, because when I was in there, when I was trying to stitch up your uterus, every stitch just fell right through. He said, I couldn't even get the stitches to hold, when I was stitching you up. And he said, your uterus was like falling apart in my hands. And he's like, it's still there, but seriously, he's like, you cannot get pregnant for a while. It's like, your uterus has to heal. And so we did an IUD to make sure that there was no way that my ex could sabotage that again. But it has now been 8 years since I had that little boy, and since the doctor said that. And Heavenly Father told us, me and Paul, new husband, of course, about 2 years ago, that it was time to have a baby. And I forgot in memory, because that's a big trauma, you guys, huge traumas. We're not just talking green beans and a brother here, right? We're talking real traumas. My physical body, my subconscious mind, my conscious mind, everything about me has been traumatized from those experiences, that I can't get pregnant right now and stay pregnant. And it is something we've been working actively, doing energy work and emotional work and anything and everything that we possibly can. But there is so much trauma. Reintegrating, okay, who was I before these traumas? My pregnancies were fine. My first 2 kids were fine. There were no problems. There were no, and Helen, this is kind of what we're talking about. Yes, there's fear, but it's something that I can't seem to access without taking another step deeper. Yes, I remember that their pregnancies were fine, but I can't seem to connect to it. I can't seem to find that safety within my body to be able to get pregnant and follow through with a full-term pregnancy again. So there is more. And I think that's what Paul's referring to, that
it's like the fear led to the
lost.
rejection, and the memory was removed.
Right. Because that trauma was so intense. It's like, no, it is not safe. It's either I die or the child dies or my uterus falls apart. Like, it was such a traumatizing experience that accessing it and keeping it is not an easy step. It is not just, I accept who I was, even regardless of somebody else's opinion of me. It's fully trusting in those creation energies within me and trusting my body to be able to, you know, carry to term or be able to carry a baby again. And okay, I have a couple of different comments to kind of get through. You're welcome to talk.
Yeah, I read most of them as they popped up. So a few thoughts on this, like where do the memories go? So that's actually one thing that we've been learning a little bit more about. And so one thing is some of these memories, well, they don't all go to the same place. Some of these memories, when they get rejected, they will eventually kind of gather up together in a group. And if this takes place, then what can happen is they create what we call a memory demon. So just don't worry too much about that name. But,
he's like, that's all it creates, but don't worry about that. It's like, not, that's big.
Yeah. It's not like the demons that you see in the movies that are going to go wreak havoc. It's just kind of a term that is used with like multiple different.
But this is multiple memories.
Yeah. Multiple different parts from different individuals. So they'll kind of gather up together.
Right.
And
well, typically, like a demon is created of a bunch of different spirits because they're using strengths of a bunch of different people. But if we're focusing on how it affects you, it's going to be all your memories.
Yeah. So there's different kinds of there's different kinds of memories, but this like memory demon, don't worry about the name of it. It sounds much worse than it probably really is. Okay.
Maybe we'll come up with a better name.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a better name. These are the steps that we need to perfect in the forgotten memories is all of these different components that are not in the unfinished document, making sure that, you know, as you go through these steps, and maybe that's exactly why I'm still struggling with fertility, is because we need to perfect a few more. And that was one thing that we did back when I got pregnant about, you know, almost a year ago, and it only lasted a few weeks. Was we were making sure it was safe in my uterus. And we were doing all of the forgotten memories. And we were doing all of the different false organs and all the different things that we were still learning. And actually, I don't think we did I don't know if we knew the false organs yet at that time.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
Yeah. And so we were doing everything that we could to make it safe in there, but it just obviously wasn't. We do have some spiritual components that we believe absolutely played into it as well, but still.
Yeah. Okay, so another name for that memory demon we could use is a forgotten twin. But usually when we think of the forgotten twin, it would be more of a spirit thing. But this is more of a memory thing. So the forgotten twin doesn't exactly apply to it either. So,
or the dark twin, but they all sound so they all seem so similar.
But this
in
is
their own way.
The memories, and so dark twin would be in the spirit form. The forgotten forgotten twin would be in the memory form.
Oh, that's a good way to organize it.
Yeah. Okay. So another possibility with this is that another person can actually remove your memories too. And we experienced this with our exes. I hate to say.
Yeah.
So.
Like making us forget that we're good parents.
Yeah.
Taking away those memories.
Yeah. So I won't get into the specifics of what was removed, but
that one's pretty much it. That we're good parents too.
There was more than just one.
Or we were good spouses, you know.
Yeah. So what happened was we found that we also took at least one of their memories as well. So if you go through and find that somebody took your memories, you should also recognize that you may have taken some of their memories and do like a healing offering. Say, here's yours back. Can I please have mine back? Kind of thing. And so
I don't know. Maybe. I know Helen just said your ex be preventing pregnancy by his thoughts. I know that I put on a lot of weight when me and Paul got together. When we got married, that was directly tied to him, where I would go to sleep and every single weekend put on like 4 to 6 pounds overnight, and it wouldn't go away until we finally hit a certain limit. And it is absolutely directly connected to him. And that is something that we did get to stop. We just need to now drop the pounds that came on.
Yeah. So our thoughts are really powerful. How they affect
They
others.
really are.
Sometimes we don't fully realize. So
I think God's really trying to teach us how to like each other.
yeah. And
Remember, your brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter how much you guys hurt each other. You're still brother. Like kiss and make up. That's what my mother would always say. Hug and say why you love each other and make up.
So God does play a part in that as well. All right. So anyway, let's kind of move on to some examples or some not examples. Let's actually. I'd like to take a volunteer to work through and figure out some forgotten memories for that person. So
it might be private. So if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, please.
Yeah. So
please don't.
So a person might have maybe a few hundred forgotten memories. We don't really know for sure, but our mind, our subconscious mind, will, when we do the testing, what it will probably do is offer up the number that we might be prepared to work on. Yeah. So you may have like maybe 20 of them actually come up, but you may have a few hundred. So what Melissa and I have also discovered is that we may have some that are triggered at other periods of time. Yeah. So you may not have those initially brought up, but if you're going through an experience, and let's just kind of jump back to like a conflict. So if you're going through a conflict, you might have the festering wounds that are a trigger. But in addition to that, there's also a possibility that you may want to look into a forgotten memory. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be a trigger, but the forgotten memory could help you in recognizing a healthier balance of how to work through a difficult situation. So, all right. So, shall we begin? Yeah. Your mom actually volunteered.
Did she?
I think. Yeah. Let me check.
Or we could go ahead and.
Lori.
Yeah.
Lori volunteered. I thought I said.
No, she was just saying something else.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll do Lori.
That would be excellent. All right, Lori. So you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute.
Okay.
And what we want to do is work on the age first. So let's find out what your subconscious mind would like to work on, and also invite your spirit to.
Do we want to look at any of the steps? Because I know that they're not perfected or finished.
Yeah, let's just kind of.
Like we could even look at the document that we're working on, but then we would just type in low.
Yeah, we may have to work on that document. So let's just go off of what we've discussed right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
So what we're going to do is identify a particular age in which you have a forgotten memory at. And then we're going to ask you to.
I'm going to take notes just to make sure that my notes are 100% on track with everything we're talking about, so I don't miss anything.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is do the testing for the age, and then ask you like what took place during that time period at that age that comes to your mind.
And you could do it in relation to one or two things as well. Like if it's particularly in relation to falling in love and like why am I struggling to trust somebody and fall in love and all of that stuff. Like what is the forgotten memory that is.
Actually, I have one in my mind right now that I'm kind of thinking of. My eyes dry out a lot after I had a laser eye surgery. And I imagine that there's probably a forgotten memory that is preventing them from being from the moisture flowing.
You can focus on one particular thing that's influencing you, whether it's emotional or not.
Yeah, so symptom in the body
the forgotten memory.
Or emotional. So whatever you prefer. Would you like us to just open it up and ask your subconscious mind to pick one, or
we probably aren't going to talk about energies today, are we? We're probably just going to talk about forgotten memories. So that's okay.
Or
it was really dry in Afghanistan.
but it was due to laser eye surgery before before I went there.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like there's something that's more closely related to trauma that I definitely feel like is like the one that I need to work on, but I feel like I want to do something something a little bit lighter first to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I had posted a thing on there that I just like I have this thing with math that like I've forgotten how to do it well, and yet I just know that you know I just know that I was really good at it before I came to Earth. And when I was a little girl, actually, I was really good at it. And then because of some of the trauma that you guys know about, that um, I can't remember it very well, but I can't retain any of the information. It just goes like if I don't work on it every day, I just go back to like a second graders level of math.
I think I'm still there too.
Oh, so you go back to most people, most adults.
Oh, I don't know, but I have other people, like my son or my husband that they can remember all. They don't have to ever review. Like it just maintains and they go forward. But mine, I mean, it just goes right back to pretty much ground zero if I don't remember it. But I just know that I used to be really good at it. I just know it. I don't know what happened.
All right.
But I can say that, but I don't have any memory of me being great at math.
So what we can do is we can be like, okay, so how many
forgotten memories are associated with math? And then we can test what ages those occurred for each of them.
Right.
Melissa's taking some notes.
I just want to make sure that our document is as we're going through it, because I know that the document needs to be updated as well.
And,
so instead of typing it and distracting everybody.
Yeah, and so what you could also do is find out, like once we find out how many, we can find out were some of them stolen, essentially, or were they rejected? Yeah, taken or rejected.
Well, when you said stolen, that felt really strong.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and test these questions, okay? So how many forgotten memories do you have? Do you want to test yourself on these?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so how many?
I'm starting feeling a lot of emotion. I don't know why.
It's amazing how there can be an emotional connection to certain things like this.
Your memory, your mind, your spirit's probably like, oh, thank you. I really would like to have this taken care of and resolved.
Yeah. So how many forgotten memories are associated with math?
I don't know. I get at least 2.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get the age for each of them, and then we'll find out if they're stolen or rejected. So what age was this first memory forgotten?
I don't know. I'm getting at age 5.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I would say test me for sabotage because I think there's stuff there.
Okay, so for the one at 5, because I'm sure that there's a lot more to this. Okay.
And there's some at birth.
Okay, so birth.
An embryo or something.
Okay. Okay, so for the one at 5, was it stolen or rejected? And make sure that when you guys are testing these things right now, that we are, there's multiple different, are you asking your spirit? Are you asking your subconsciousness? Do you need to ask an angel in your presence? Because sometimes with certain traumas we can presume, and we don't want to presume, because it'll be intercepted. Like the treatment will end up being intercepted. So we need to make sure that we are getting from the proper source. So I would say, does your spirit know? And if your spirit knows the answer to this question, ask your spirit. And if your spirit doesn't know the answer and your subconscious doesn't know the answer, you can ask an angel in your presence.
I do have an angel.
I get that it was, for the 5-year one, it was taken. I think
it's best to ask your subconsciousness. That's interesting. Paul was like, I'm getting a prompting. Okay, so let me write that down. Make sure you're asking your subconsciousness. Okay, you're getting it was taken.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we need to know who was taken by?
I feel a lot of resistance to that question, so.
Okay, so let's not go there. We may kind of be able to, I guess, figure it out, but maybe it's not necessarily important for us. If the trauma is like really deep, let's not open up the wound there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is also really important, because sometimes going through, I don't know, kind of going back through all of the different memories of each of those traumas is actually more destructive than beneficial. So we want to be careful on that one. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one, the one of birth. Was that one stolen or rejected? And make sure we're going to ask the subconsciousness.
And I get that it was rejected.
Okay.
But
Okay. Okay, I want you to ask an angel in your presence. I'm getting that one was stolen as well. So there could just be something either intercepting our testing, or it could be something trying to mislead.
Yeah, was it stolen by the same individual?
I'm testing yes.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't mean that I'm wrong and you're right. That's me just saying, if I'm getting a different answer, I want to kind of be aware if there's something in the presence that is leading us in a different direction, trying to interfere with this being corrected. So always.
Well, I'm feeling a lot of resistance, like something holding me back from being able to answer. So I'm guessing that's usually means yes. There's.
Yeah.
Okay.
If this was taken, this person, whoever took it, doesn't seem to want to give it back to you.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is we may need to do a little bit of work to soften this person's heart. Okay?
Especially if they're departed, or if they're already a bad guy in the first place.
That's a good question. So is this person still in mortal form, like still alive?
Sorry, I'm writing these down, so see if she can.
I keep getting the word that keeps coming to my mind is control, that, is used to control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, Lori, we definitely had a good one for you.
Okay.
You're like, I want to start with one that's kind of easy, just to kind of, walk into it kind of lightly. But yeah, this is one that it's really hard.
Okay. So obviously, if it's a control energy and that person, and we can always test to see if that person's alive or if it happens to be, you know, a bigger person. If it's a bigger person, we may need to know if there is like a influence of like a, you know, a more advanced spirit.
Another question might be is how many memories did this individual steal? So when we do this with someone, we want to make sure that we gather them all back at the same time.
That's true. Because if they were stolen, we can get them all back. If it was rejected, we need to do them one by one.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of interruption.
Yeah. Okay.
Like with the feed and stuff.
And that's where it's important to sometimes we need to work with each other because like even when I'm doing something, like I was kind of sharing with you my traumas, I had to actually call up one of you guys to help me because I wasn't able to do mine on my own. And that is something to be aware of, is that I really think God has given us ways to, sometimes we get to serve others and sometimes we need to be served. Sometimes we need to reach out and ask for that help and be able to work with one another. And that's hard for me because I'm like, but I already have all these things. Like we do some amazing work and some amazing things and I've got Paul and I don't need to reach out. But other times I'm humbled and I'm like, no, I really do. I really do need to reach out and I need to get somebody to help me on this one because it's just more than I can do. You know, I'm overwhelmed with this. And I think that is such a beautiful way to learn how to serve each other and take care of each other. And okay, so after we figured out what is going on here, we've got the ages, we've got whether they were forgotten or stolen.
Let's
talk about what to do next. Do we need to pull up the documents so we can remember? Because
let's go ahead and see how many memories that this individual stole.
Okay.
A whole lot of them.
I'm gonna let you guys do it because
you have some interference.
I feel some resistance and then there's a part of me that is saying, let's do this. Let it help you. Let it go.
I'm getting 55 total, which I have to say, if it was one of them was at 5 years old, we got 55 total, and the other one was possibly embryo birth. What if that started at 5 months pregnant? There might be some 5s, but 5 isn't like a normal common.
What I suspect is it could be related to that individual that you had in that dream. Let's not get into the discussion of that individual, but
knowing that it could be that person, that spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that big bad guy, I like to call them the big bad guys, the more advanced spirits that are kind of hard to overcome. Okay, so how would he have the right to steal memories? What gives him that right? What went wrong that gave him the right to steal him at birth and at 5 years old? Would it have been a parental decision?
Well, we know a little bit of her history, so there's.
But you know what I mean? Like that's.
Yeah, there was some sort of.
We don't want to live in fear that they're going to constantly be taking who we are away from us. Mm-hmm. It sometimes helps to know what gave them that power. What gave them that right? Is it because of a relationship in the pre-existence? Is it because of a parental decision? We've had some people come to us that have different struggles because their parents didn't want them. Their parents didn't want, to have another child and kind of abandons them as a baby. And that's kind of, opens a doorway.
Just kind of the most basic information on this is it had to do with the ancestor that made an agreement with this individual. And so it may be due to the choice of the ancestor that gave some power over to this
big bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just even think about, my birth mother and that fact that she did drink alcohol. while she was pregnant with me. And just from revelation given through priesthood blessings, I do know that the reason I was born, and born a little early, is because she tried to abort me.
Yeah.
And so, so there's some things there.
Yeah, and I would think that one of the biggest memories stolen right there is, that it could absolutely be connected to mom's decision is, I want to have a body. I want to live. I'm going to be loved. That's what your mother is there for, is to love you and take care of you and to give you like a safe place.
Okay, so here's... I think this is important for her.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think so too.
Okay, so Lori, we've done some work with this individual already. So this individual, although he's not necessarily a nice guy, I will just say that, he does have some intelligence, and he does know that he does have some level of compassion. We'll just say that, okay? From our experience with him, we have discovered that he does have some boundaries that he will respect.
Not enough compassion is the right word, but boundaries, yeah.
Yeah, at least boundaries, okay? He realizes that he doesn't want to go beyond certain levels, all right? So here's what I would recommend. This is probably not going to be an easy step here, but I'd like for you to think of this individual, and I want you to do something that's hard, okay? Even though he has caused a lot of grief and torment in your life, I want you to remember the teachings of Christ, to love your enemy, okay? I want you to invite him into your presence right now and focus on...
And we'll make sure that we clean him up after, I promise.
I'll send my spirit there into your presence as well to offer some protection. We'll ask some angels to also offer some protection, okay?
He is a bad guy.
We can't necessarily trust him. But here's what we want to do. Communicate to him that you forgive him, okay? Communicate to him that you've learned a lot from the experiences that you've gone through. And as hard as they have been, you have to be grateful for them, because that is a commandment given to us by our Lord, to be thankful for all things. So tell him, even though you've hurt me, I'm thanking the Lord.
We could send that to mom too. Can I say that?
Yeah. Even though you've hurt me, I am thankful for what you've done. Opposition refines me, and it helps me to grow. I become stronger, and whether you realize it or not, you've made me into who I am today, and I am proud of who I am. I love myself, and I love you. Go ahead and ask him to offer these forgotten memories back to you. And as you do this, imagine wrapping your arms around him and sharing your light and love with him. We know the situation that he lives in is not a peaceful, loving type of situation. And we know that this is something that we crave, is love. And something that he does not receive either. So your offering of love is actually what he's been seeking for too. He's just been going about it in a strange and not very effective way. But you're teaching him how to love right now, so that he is less likely to do this to others. And I want you to get down on your knees, not physically, but imagine getting down on your knees with him and praying for him, praying that God will soften his heart, and praying that God will help him to experience love. He likely had a mother he likely had a mother that he may or may not even remember that still loves him. Now invite his mother into this scene. Invite his mother to communicate her love to him. And as you do this, allow his mother and him to simply go about their way. Allow them to go in peace and with your blessing. And go ahead and take these memories that have been offered back to you and offer them some healing. Touch them with the healing stick. Ask for the living waters to wash over and cleanse them. Kiss each of them. Remind them of their original creation and purpose in which God had created them. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if each of these memories have been returned, and if there's anything else that we need to do. So we could go through some steps, like step by step, but sometimes visualizations are a lot more effective. And if you're able to visualize walking through and receiving these, it also works within the mind a lot more healing steps, so that you're ready to receive them back as well. And as you receive them back, let these memories know that they are welcome, that you want to actually expand upon them. You want to integrate them into your mind. You want to use them. They're valued, and you want to build upon them. You're going to develop a future that you envision with these memories that's going to be a benefit to God, because God helped you to restore these, and you want to use these to serve God. Okay? All right, Lori. Are you able to share any feelings or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just felt some of the memory, like, I don't know, like they kind of looked like orbs of light, just coming back into my my aura, kind of.
Yeah.
My mind. I'm getting that only about 25 of them have been given back to me at this time.
Okay.
And that they'll think about it for the other parts.
Okay.
So,
well, let me just say, you know what? That's okay, because here's the thing. It takes time for your mind to make some adjustments, and maybe in a few months or so, then your mind might be able to incorporate the additional ones a lot easier. Okay?
So I was,
well, and that there's wisdom in that, that's a lot of memories to have come back to me and embrace and accept and remember. So maybe it's wisdom, and that I only have that many coming back at this time.
That's I think wise too.
But we can also kind of look and see what were some of the memories that were forgotten if you wanted to kind of go there.
Yeah, because it's good to recognize what it was so that you can build upon it. And so as you take time over the next couple of weeks, I know you do a little bit of meditation. And as you do that, allow these memories to come into your mind and to say, hey, I'm back. What can be done with it? And how can it be incorporated into your life again? So,
okay.
Anyway.
Do we want to go through any of those, or do we want to visit what to do when we have the memories forgotten or rejected as opposed to stolen? Because we need to do some that were rejected as well. Because this is all stolen.
Yeah. So for the ones that were rejected, they, as I described, end up in either the forgotten twin or the memory demon, whatever you prefer to call them now.
But let's actually do it. We're just gonna skip some of the other work we wanted to touch on, and let's just do all forgotten memories today.
Yeah.
So we can either do another volunteer with another memory, but I think it'd be important to make sure that we get some of the rejected ones as well.
So we'll actually use the steps written up, I think, for that.
Even though it needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. Okay, so... Okay, thank you, Lori, for allowing us that awesome opportunity to go through that with you.
And definitely ponder what some of those memories were that were forgotten. And it's important. Whether you have to address them all right now or just start asking Heavenly Father to show you what those were. Since they were stolen, it's done a little bit different than if they are rejected.
And another thing is you can invite your subconscious to offer you dreams to help you to remember those consciously as well. Because I know you're pretty good at remembering your dreams.
I have been in the past, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, kind of compiling that list is going to be important. With you being so young, you're not going to just remember everything, but along the lines of I was wanted. Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother love me, and my existence matters. Like, I am important. And then with kind of same thing with the 5-year-old thing, I am loved. I am created and designed to love and be loved. Even if certain people don't know how to love me, right? That is still what I'm here for, is that I am a being of love and I can bless others with that love. It's hard when somebody doesn't love you in your childhood the way that you are, the way that you deserve to be loved. It makes it really difficult to understand and remember that. Alex, if you have something you want to say, why don't you text me on your phone? I've got my phone and I cannot read the little note that you have, but if you text me, I will be able to see what you're trying to say, sweetie. Okay.
He likes to play a part in the show.
Yes. Okay. Was there anything that you would like to say? Is there anything that is coming to your mind right now?
Well, some of the memories are not all positive, but they're important to know.
Right.
And so that's something that I feel.
So remember, the not positive memory comes in that we want to focus on the positive part. We want to focus on the fact that trauma came in, that memory of that trauma came in, and it caused you to forget the good stuff, caused you to forget that, that positive light and that positive experience.
Yeah. And as you go through and work on more healing for yourself, you're going to be able to convert those experiences and memories into more of a positive outlook.
And we're going to go through these with the with some of the ones that were, we just want to make sure that we touch base on those as well, the ones that are rejected. So when we get to that step, do it with us, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our next volunteer. And then at the end, we're going to have all of you guys kind of do the same thing at the same time, where we are remembering the good, remembering who we were before the trial, before the trauma hit. Okay. All right. And we had JB Nutter. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's do a forgotten memory for you as well, where we are hopefully finding one that was rejected as opposed to stolen, so that we can kind of focus on that. And if it had been stolen by somebody who was alive, the steps that Paul did are very, very similar. So anyhow, Alex, in about 30 minutes, okay? 30 minutes, 12 o'clock. Okay. Okay. And there you are. Okay. And it's not unmuting on my end. Can you unmute yourself?
Got it.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Brianna. So do you want to focus on a specific, physical aspect or emotional aspect? Anything in particular, or just open it up to what your subconscious wants to work on?
Just whatever pops up's fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do the same questions. How many forgotten memories? Well, let's do this the way that we have it in the actual steps in the document as we bring them to light. So you bring to light all your forgotten memories. So how many forgotten memories do you have right now that would be best to address? How about that? I'm going to focus on one. Okay. So what age were you? Were you over the age of 10, over the age of 20, over the age of 15? I'm getting 18 for the one that I am getting towards. Okay, whatever that is. And was it stolen? Okay, I'm asking your subconsciousness. Okay, that one is rejected, so we can use that one. Okay, great. So for the rejected ones, let's go ahead and work on the rejected ones. Paul, do you have them in the notes?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and...
Because I don't have these memorized.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, so there's a discussion on... okay, so let's just go through this.
Yeah, we pretty much already did all of these.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and identify what it was. So when you were 18, do you remember any sort of trauma occurring or any sort of really difficult experience that you had in your life? And you don't have to give a lot of details, as long as we kind of understand, the basics of what that trauma was, so that we can figure out what was forgotten.
Well,
or we could maybe we could ask, was this related to a specific event or kind of a general experience that was overall over a long period of time?
I think that it's going to come to her. She's going to know.
We'll let you do it.
It could have been I had to go through a trial for somebody that raped me. Could have been that. It could have been just trying to. It could have been the first year of college.
18's a big age. It's like graduating, becoming an adult, going to school, moving out, having to take care of yourself, having to have your life figured all out. It's a really rough age. I'm getting it's the trial, though.
Okay.
Okay. That's interesting that it wasn't the event itself. I would see that the trial, that's huge. That's a really intense, here it comes, a really intense event that you have to relive everything. You have to think about it all. You have to talk about it in front of lots of different people. or you have a lot of people who don't believe you.
Yeah.
A lot of lies, I think, is what usually comes out. People saying,
What's going
I think it was something in her background. Was that something in your background?
It was. Samuel's doing coding, and I'm like, no more sounds.
We thought an alien invasion had just started. It's like, whoa, let's go see what. Okay. Okay, so kind of back to it. That can absolutely be really frustrating. So I would think that if the biggest difficulty during that trial would be just trying to prove what happened, and the person who doesn't want to get in trouble, of course, lying and coming up with, excuses or blaming you or denying it. Right? Absolutely. So, and that's just as bad as the event itself. Going through that trauma. Okay, so that's a big one. So what's the next step after we figure out what it is? Okay, so we identified it. So sometimes we can narrow it down if we need to narrow it down. So accepting the forgotten memory. So this is where we kind of have like a little pep talk. Do you want to do the pep talk? I think it's important to accept the forgotten. Okay, you know what though? This is the part we're not talking about. So we figure out what the trauma is, and then we need to figure out, what did I forget? That is not written in here.
Yeah, so...
What did I forget about who I am or who I used to be?
Yeah, so that was a part that we did get. I didn't forget about that part, but with the work that we did with Lori, with so many of them, and
that's pretty hard to do.
I didn't want to go through all of them, so it just did a visualization to be able to work through many of them at the same time, because they were all taken from one source. So that's why I did it that way. But,
we do have to kind of alter exactly how we're going to do it based upon how the Spirit guides, and I think what the Spirit guided you to do was great, so no worries. But same thing with you, Lori. If anything is coming to your mind as we are doing this, follow some of these steps as well. So what did I forget about who I am or who I used to be before the trial? Like the trial, not necessarily like the court trial, but the trial that you've been through, the trauma of the trial. Okay. So, Brianna, if you think about it, before the rape and before the trial, were you in a state of, like, I feel safe, I can trust men, I like sexuality, I am pure, I am clean, my I don't know, I think that sexuality is a very righteous, very holy thing, that when it gets twisted and misused, it can be really easy to forget that it's actually really a divine gift from Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts about what you think you forgot with that trial?
It could have been... I lost a lot of trust with my parents.
Yeah.
My parents didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And this is absolutely how you want to figure it out is, what did I lose? And when you realize that that's what you lost, it helps you to realize what you had before that. What you forgot. I can trust my parents. Absolutely something that you lost. Okay, what else? Did you feel like maybe a different stage of vulnerability, or that you can't be trusted? People think that they can't trust you, or that maybe your voice can't be heard because I'm a girl, that my voice can't be heard. What do you think?
He was like, he had already graduated like a few years before, so he was college. But when he was in high school, he was like big man on campus. So he had droves of people supporting him.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people who actually came up to me and said he did it to me too. Some of it wasn't until after, some of it was during it, and I just felt like, I really felt unsupported during the whole thing.
Yeah. Like it was the whole world against you.
Yep.
So what I think is interesting, just as a little bit of validation on your part, is that if somebody doesn't see it happen, they think that that means it hasn't happened. The idea that, oh, I know him. I know he's a great guy. There's no way he did that. But to be honest, if you don't see it happen, doesn't mean it didn't happen. I didn't see the Eiffel Tower being built or the Statue of Liberty being built or the pyramids being built, but they're there. Just because I didn't see it happen doesn't mean that somebody didn't build it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, it came out of the sky. There's no other way because I didn't see it being built. It probably came out of the sky. I kind of like, oh, well, if I didn't see, what's his face? That one dude that was he was going through trial for like 10 years for the murder of his wife, that one black actor.
O.J. Simpson?
O.J. Simpson, yeah. So because I didn't see it, does that mean it didn't happen? No, that's ludicrous. Like, evidence is evidence, fact is fact. Just because I didn't see it doesn't, just because he laughed, he made me laugh in some of his comedies, doesn't mean that means that it's not possible for him to, commit a sin or a crime.
So what about your faith in God? Was that also
that's a good angle.
challenged?
No.
Okay.
I think that was pretty much all I had.
Okay, good.
Trying to speak my truth.
See, and this is good. I lost trust in my parents and I felt unsupported, especially if everybody was judging you and maybe felt like people then don't trust you and don't believe you. That may be all we need. Because those two topics are absolutely going to lead us to, I forgot that I can trust other people, or I forgot that my word is valuable, or I forgot that I am supported, or, I forgot that I can trust my parents. Can I ask you, is your relationship with your parents still strained?
A little. It's way better than it used to be, especially since they believed me after my sister came out and said, well, okay, I didn't believe her, but he just did it to me too.
Yeah.
So,
believed you.
But she was the one that supported him from the beginning. So it was like,
yeah, that's too bad that something that didn't have to happen because nobody believed you in the first place. Isn't that frustrating?
Yeah.
I've got a story similar to that, not exactly the same, but similar to that. So, okay, do we need to pinpoint which of these are the ones that she forgot? Because we have the one memory, but there's a lot of different branch offs of beliefs of who she was and what came natural to her before the trial, before this trauma occurred. They're all relevant is what I'm testing.
I'm wondering if it's if that's after that is when my social anxiety really kind of kicked off.
Makes sense. Yeah. All of a sudden it really matters to you what everybody else thinks and what happens in large groups, and being around multiple different people, especially if they're all, nobody is there to actually support you and protect you. They're all there, blind.
So with this,
I can see how those thought patterns are taking her the wrong way.
We've identified that there's at least one forgotten memory, but let's kind of think about how many.
We got the one memory, but all of these thoughts are relevant.
How much associated with this event? Like how many total?
What do you mean?
Like how many forgotten memories total
with this particular event?
Yeah.
Okay. Somewhere in the 20s, plenty of different beliefs.
So that's kind of like a turning point. It seems to be in your life where
It might be
gonna have
important to put some
review again.
time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be simple. Like, I am supported. You know, my words are heard or valuable. I can trust my parents, or my parents trust me. Either way.
Yeah. So as you think about this, kind of with Lori, you know, do a little bit of meditating. Allow those answers to flow into your mind, and ask for the angels to assist you in teaching you as well, because
they're really important.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily easy to do. Okay, that's one of the reasons why we haven't completed the document, because they are challenging.
And if you can take a step back, I want you to see the trauma that occurred is opposition. Once again, it is somebody else using their agency, sometimes for bad, in the situation. You know, not exactly in a Christ-like way did they use their agency, but at the same time, it is a learning tool for them, because he has to now repent of his sins, and you get to use the atonement to learn how to love and forgive and feel safe once again. And so it's like this bigger picture of seeing what is the growth opportunity. How can I learn from the trauma, and how can I reintegrate who I always was, so that I don't have social anxiety, so I don't have these fears holding me back, so I don't have difficulties with my relationships with my parents, or even, might I say, even though we didn't talk about this, sexual intimacy is going to be connected to this. And so if there are difficulties with sexual intimacy, those might be ones that you might want to do when we're not on a live video. But focusing on what are some of the different belief systems that you used to have, regarding that. What is God's will for you? So usually if that's hard to find, it's easier to find the, I'm not safe, or, sex is misused. So when you can find the faulty thought pattern, you can usually twist it to the godly pattern. It's sometimes a little bit easier when you can find the negative, whatever. I mean, if you can automatically find the one that is more godly, that's even better. But usually when you're still in it, when you're still stuck in this, it's easier to just find the negative. So when you find that negative, I am, my sexuality has been misused and abused, and I am not, valued in that way. It's easier to be like, okay, what's the truth? What am I really created for? I like that. I'm going to write that down. What's the truth?
Yeah. Okay. So the next portion we want to work on right here is accepting these forgotten memories. And you can focus on one of them, but right now, if you want to focus on a little bit more than one, that might be okay too. Whatever you prefer. Okay. So
when you find the false belief that you learned from the trauma, we got to figure out what the truth is, write that down, and then move on to that next step.
Yeah. So
my notes are really sloppy.
All right, Brianna. So right now, we could focus on the ones that we've identified, which is, trusting your parents. So accept the idea that it's safe to love your parents. And then it's healthy to love your parents.
And it's safe to trust other people as well.
Yeah.
That she can be herself, and that she is supported, and her words are valuable. There's a lot. There's a lot of beliefs that came out of this trial. A lot of faulty beliefs. It's kind of like some of the stuff that leads to those faulty core beliefs. Mm-hmm. How can we fix these forgotten memories so that those faulty and empowering beliefs can be done properly? Which this should be in our self-sabotage steps, but we learned it after we did the program. Yeah. That's okay.
Okay. So each one of these is consciously think that I desire to live my life with the idea of trusting my parents, with the idea of feeling supported by others. I desire this. I want it. I accept it. I embrace it. That's who I am, and that's who I want to be. Just kind of continue focusing on those kind of thoughts.
Okay. And that's where we need to accept that forgotten, because I don't think we can quite muscle test if they're restored and positive until we've done the forgotten twin. because they're really not going to come back in 100% yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's in the wrong spot. That's okay. Let's do number 3.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do.
Oh, this one was actually, did you say that? So invite the memories to return. If they're dead, ask God to touch them.
Oh, that's a good
And then
part.
ask for the breath of life to be breathed into these forgotten memories, and be grateful of who you are, and focus on filling these forgotten memories up with your light and love. So I think that step right there, this is one of those that can get lost. I remember thinking that there was a step in here that can get lost.
Mm-hmm.
So both of you, Brianna and Lori, make sure that you take these steps right here with some of these. You don't even have to consciously be focusing on each one. You guys are already focusing on, like, your brain is already focusing on it. You're already in that state right now, focusing on it. So just say, I invite these forgotten memories to return. And I ask God to touch any of the ones that are dead to bring them back to life. And we ask the breath of life to be breathed back into these memories. They're really the positive forgotten memories. And then just kind of focus on gratitude of who you are, and just loving who you are now and the growth that you have had from this experience. So fill up these memories with your light and your love. I think we're going to put a lot of steps more into that, really talking more about the atonement and allowing
I think that's
that forgiveness of the other person and the trial, and how can we use this as a growth opportunity and a growth tool to continue moving forward. So, okay.
All right. So if there's for this memory, demon or forgotten twin, is there a rebellious spirit associated with them? Like, it merged with the memories at all? We would want to identify that and remove that if that's the case. And there could be a contract associated with it as well. So we want to be aware of that. So if in case there is a rebellious spirit associated with it, we'll just go ahead and work through removing it real quick. We ask for the living waters to wash over these, to wash over the living contract, to remove your name. And if need be, we ask for the sun to burn the contract. And so I'll just simply command the rebellious spirit to depart. So in the name of Jesus Christ, command that the rebellious spirit depart. Command that the portal associated with the rebellious spirit be sealed, never can be reopened. And if there's any chains or cords to that rebellious spirit, we send forth the light rod to God upon the chains and cords. We detach the chains and cords, cut them with the sun sword, or at least remove those chains and cords. Okay, so for this forgotten twin, so making amends is actually what we already went through, I think, in the previous step there that we've been discussing. Okay, so we've done a little bit of that. And so go ahead and accept them back. Invite them to return. And also invite the energy of the atonement right here on the healing. Invite the atonement energy to cleanse these memories. And offer some healing assistance to them. You can invite people. We have some extra steps here. What I'm going to do instead, because I'm thinking more of like the thoughts. So go ahead and touch these thoughts with the healing stick, and invite them to remember their original creation purpose for which they were created. You can also ask for living waters to wash over them, and you can also kiss them as well to bring a little bit of love into them. All right? And I'll say this one. I remind all of your atoms, RNA, DNA, cells, infrastructures, energetic structures, spiritual structures, and electrical impulses of their original creation of the true God's purpose. Okay? And let's go ahead and see, have the ones, let's see how many have been returned.
At 12.
Okay, that's great.
Not all of 20-something. So we may need to tweak it a little.
Well, possibly with a similar situation with Lori, possibly about half of them were returned. And so this is maybe, once again, just the opportunity for your mind to consciously work through.
Process it.
Yeah. So maybe in the future, like maybe a month or two, revisit that again and see what returns it again. So that you can gradually work into it. All right. So we kind of covered that with Lori. So I would recommend the same thing for you. All right.
Okay.
So one more thing about this that we haven't discussed yet. So these forgotten memories are also associated with the dark energy that we call the annihilation dark energy. All right. And that's also in the unfinished documents. And you could go through a visualization that helps to restore light within your mind that will help to expand these memories. And so this light becomes rather dim over time as this annihilation takes place within the mind. That this energy, it suffocates that creation type of energy within the mind. And it leads towards more of a dissolving of the energy, a dissolving of the creation, which inspires the mind. Okay.
So, and there might be more that's going to be added into this once we get it complete. Something that I was also thinking of is making sure if you have to do trauma work, that we have some trauma work, because that's what we're dealing with, is how these traumas have caused us to forget parts of us. So going through some of the visualizations, we'll most likely be linking either the emotional memory release, which is a tapping sequence, working through handing over that trauma to God. Another one is in the reoccurring trauma. We have an awesome visualization of being like in a movie projector booth and handing those traumas over to our Savior. And then in the self-sabotage steps, we also have a visualization. I always get confused as to which step it is, but if you go to the link for specific treatments, we have one specifically for trauma work, emotional trauma, and you may need to just go there and just see all the different trauma work that you need to do to be able to work through the event itself to really reintegrate this. And so that might be something I'll link as well, some of the different steps that we can do. So just kind of being aware of, like I said, that the angle of finding that gift in the child, allowing the atonement to come, and one of the things I always really focus on is allowing that other person the agency to make mistakes and to sin and to be imperfect, and that we're focusing, like I was saying at the beginning, on loving our imperfections, so it's a little bit easier to love other people's imperfections. So if you're still not in the place of loving your imperfections, start there. So it's a little bit easier to love people when they sin and when they make mistakes, and being able to put up those healthy boundaries so that they can't, continue causing you distress. And then the perspective of possibly working through your traumas, and then really reintegrating that forgotten memory back that we were doing in some of those steps, that forgotten twin. So I'm sure that there's going to be a few more steps that we may need to do. We may need to do some more visualizations. So as we work on this, once this is complete and actually in the energies document, you might see a whole lot more that has been added, and that would be fantastic. So if you're watching this video and more is added already, that's even better, because that means that the work is done. If you could take that work and go back in time and give it to me now, so I can save a little bit of I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm speaking to future people who are watching this replay video. Okay. So it's doing some sort of visualization where we seriously reintegrate that back in a more detailed way than, so the one where we're kissing it and inviting God's light to touch it, I think we need to do some more visual work there. So definitely, if this isn't done yet, when you're watching this, have Heavenly Father help you through these steps and ask Him what else needs to be complete. What else? There's probably hundreds of different ways to do each thing. So, what are some different steps that you can do to remember who you used to be and reintegrate who you used to be that you forgot? So, okay. So does anybody have any questions? Because that's pretty much it, since I know that it's not 100% complete. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. You know, I realized that we didn't start this with the prayer.
We got to end
let's
it with
go
the
ahead
prayer.
and end it with the prayer.
That would be really beneficial.
All right.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Our dear Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this wonderful opportunity to share these thoughts and have a discussion regarding forgotten memories. And thank Thee for the guidance in this process. Thank Thee for Thy blessings and Thy healing and Thy love. And thank Thee for Thy patience with us and Thy mercy in forgiving us. And say with Thy Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so you guys can see how that one can actually be really beautiful. Even though perhaps who you used to be is not who you want to be. Ooh, that's a good one. I lost train of what I was going to say with that one. So the perspective that we're looking at in that one is not necessarily like, I forgot that I was a sinner and I forgot that I made mistakes and I forgot I forgot I was in a dark place in my life. We really need to, that is where the deception is going to lead you. We need to recognize that there will be deception at all times in your life trying to lead you astray. We need to be able to recognize what that is and get back on track on Heavenly Father's plan. So if it's a part of you that you don't want to remember, then that is still a trauma. We have to get past that. We have to get to the, who are you? What is, so even when we were talking to Lori, right? One was her childbirth, or not even childbirth, but it could have been an embryo. So she doesn't really have a lot of memories unless it was spiritual pre-existent memories. So the part that we're focusing on is my life is valuable. Being born is a blessing. Being alive and being created is a miracle. God and Heavenly Mother, Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother both desire my happiness and my existence. And my parents are designed to love me and care for me and keep me safe. Her experience was contrary to that. But the truth is what was godly. And the truth, the godly truth, is what we want to reintegrate. So if you're saying, I don't want to remember the time in which I was a rebellious teenager, we need to dig deeper. We need to dig deeper, Helen, into but who am I really? Like, what is it that I forgot? I forgot that I'm a divine daughter of God who deserves to be treated with a gentle, loving touch. Instead, I was abused. I was raped. I was molested. I was mistreated. I was, rejected. And is that the truth? Is that what I deserve? Do I deserve to just be mistreated? Is that what God wants me to think about myself? Is that I can't trust other people and that I am a sinner and that I am a reject? No, we know that is not true. We know that, right, just like you said, the part that you want to know is who I am with God. So who are you really in that deeper picture of that divine destiny, that divine truth of who you are that you forgot because of the trial, because that trial reformed you into, I am afraid to trust. I am, sex is dangerous. Sex is not a beautiful creation thing. It is something that is just used because men just want to take advantage and take what they want and go like this. It's gross and it's ugly and I hate it. And when a belief system like that is created, is that godly? And if you sit there and you're like, well, the memory I don't want to remember that is really bad was, being mistreated and now I hate sex. And so we need to recognize, okay, God commanded Adam and Eve to multiply and replenish. And we know that creation is godly. And we know that this connection between man and woman is a godly connection. So why does it not feel godly to you? So when we find the why, the memory, that trauma, that part that you don't usually forget, you don't usually forget the trauma, but you do forget that godly, divine truth of who you really were, whether or not you ever lived it, because you knew it in the preexistence. So if you were raped and abused and molested all through your childhood, then you may not remember any time in your life that you remember being treated right. But your spiritual existence goes on much deeper, much further back into the preexistence. I don't know. So, do I need to remember what caused my sorrows? I got through them. I grew through them. I don't want to review the trauma that hurt me. I get depressed reliving them. So, Helen, I don't know if you were in and out taking care of the grandkids or not.
Oh,
but I'm sorry?
That's where Grandma is.
At her house. Yes.
Talking to you.
Yes, she's on class. Yes, okay. Shh. So we are not focusing on the trauma, Helen. We need to understand what we forgot. So sometimes we'll be like, what trauma? Like what age were you that trauma occurred? Okay, I was 8 years old. Okay, so before I was 8, okay, the trauma was I was molested. Okay, so before I was 8, I felt safer. I felt like I could be me, like I could love myself, that I could love others, that I would be touched and treated appropriately. But after that trauma, I put up a wall and I wouldn't let people near me. I wouldn't let people touch me. I felt fear. So we're not focusing on the trauma, Helen. If when we are looking for the forgotten memory, we need to do trauma work. That's what I was talking about. We have the link for all the trauma work. We have those different steps that I was saying is going to be in the document, but right now it's in the specific treatments under trauma work. So when you're doing this, it brings up a trauma and you need to go through some trauma work, do the trauma visualizations, but we're not focusing on the trauma. We're focusing on what you forgot. Okay. Always remember, we're focusing on what you forgot about who you were and who you truly are. Who you truly are, like I said, is a beautiful, loving, sweet woman that is made to create. And I understand you're dealing with interruptions. I do understand. We can absolutely talk about that more. You can rewatch the video. But that was one of the most important parts of these forgotten memories, is that we are not pulling up a repression. It is fully remembering that beauty, remembering that divine beauty, so that we can churn. So the biggest trial is getting those traumas to be seen as a positive experience. So that is where we have to get that forgotten part of us reintegrated into us, because you don't want to, if your belief system is that like sex is dangerous, sex is disgusting and yucky, and I don't want to have anything to do with it, that is not a godly belief. That is what we have to remember, is what is the truth? What is the truth that you knew before you came to this life? Or this truth that you knew as a young, innocent child? Or, well, you may have not really understood that as a truth. But, what is it that you were created as a woman to do? And that is to connect with other people and to, have children and to multiply and enjoy, certain creation experiences with you and your spouse. So that is really what the true deeper purpose is that we're focusing on here. Okay. We're not dealing with repressed memories. We're not pulling up repressed memories. We are not trying to relive traumas, but the only way that we can remember what that forgotten piece is by pinpointing what trauma caused you to forget it. Okay. That specific trauma caused me to forget who I really am in life. So I choose to fully allow that atonement energy to heal that trauma. I hand that trauma. That's what all those visualizations are that I'm talking about. Different ways to hand that trauma over to God. It's not yours to have to carry anymore. It's somebody else's sin. You are here to forgive. You are here to be cleansed with that atonement, that you get to hand that over to God 100% and allow Him to cleanse you, because that is what the atonement is all about. And then reintegrate who you've always been. Reintegrate that loving, divine, godly truth of who you've always been back into who you are. But it's not going to be that complete, innocent, I've never learned truth. It's going to have a deeper understanding now, because it's actually been tried. Kind of like when Christ was tried, when he was being beaten and he was being crucified. If his belief before that was, I am God. I am here to atone. I am here to save, all of mankind and show them how to come back to Heavenly Father. And then he has this incredible trauma that hits him in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then this incredible trauma when he's being beat. I hate to say it, but being beat with that whip would have broke me. I wouldn't even have made it to carrying my cross, let alone being crucified. Like, being beat with that whip would have just totally crushed me. That was, I didn't ever realize that whip was filled up with bone fragments and rocks and pokey, spiky things meant to tear and rip his flesh. Like, that kind of stuff, that would have crushed me. What if he forgot his truth before even making it to the cross? What if he forgot the whole purpose of coming here and suffering and going through all of those experiences in the garden? Because the first time that he hit one of the worst painful traumas, all of a sudden, all he could focus on was the trauma, and I'm not safe. See, why do I want to save these people? All they're doing is hurting me. All they're doing is wanting to death and destruction and misery and suffering. Why in the world am I even doing this? And he could have forgotten it, but he didn't. So we know that we're not supposed to forget either. We're not supposed to forget this divine truth and allow these trials to crush us. We're supposed to learn how to have these trials in a more godly way. How to, yes, we're going to have trials. We're going to have traumas, but you are still who you've always been. Your divine being as a daughter and a son of God is still who you are. You still have a purpose in this life. You still have a mission in this life. You still have a plan that God and you has created in the pre-existence for where you're going and what you're doing. And we don't want to forget it. These trials make us forget. That's the adversary's deception. He wants you to forget. And we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to stand up and forget who we are just because that trial was so yucky. Just like Christ did not forget just because that being in the garden or being beat with that whip was too much. And he didn't forget. He still went through with everything. He still forgave those while he was on the cross. He still resurrected, and he still loved and blessed and supported, and he still rose to his divine destiny. And that is the path that we are all on. And so we are here to make sure that when you hit that trial, that you don't forget who you really are. Okay? Does that make sense, Helen? Just kind of a different perspective. Okay? Does that help a little bit? Yep. He could have made them stop. Heavenly Father at all times could have made all those trials stop. He could have made the people stop hurting Christ. He could have made anybody who hurt you stop hurting. He could make the war in heaven stop just like that. And he doesn't. So there's a growth opportunity here for us. It is an opportunity for us to learn how to forgive. That's why we started with talking about our bodies, with learning how to love that which is imperfect, love something that is aging, love something that is slowing down, love something that, we have that natural man, and we're learning how to become more like God, but we're also learning how to truly love in God's way. Honey, we really are recording. Thank you. So starting with yourself is the easy way, and that's hard still too, right? So start with yourself. Start with fully loving your age, your wrinkles, your imperfections, how your body is not what it used to be. And then you can move outwards a little bit to really loving the fact that, yes, my brothers and sisters hurt me. My family, my loved ones, other people hurt me, and I sinned and I made mistakes too. But It is not there to stop me from my progression. It is there to teach me so I can grow further and develop and still have that divine destiny, but have like a more godly twist to it because it is now made beautified through the atonement. You know, it is now stronger than it was before. Like I can love myself and others better because of that trauma. But most people aren't ready for that step yet. That is the deeper step. The deeper step of being like, gosh, that horrible, horrible thing that happened, isn't that horrible? Because that person learned what the atonement really is about. I learned what the atonement is really about. And I learned how to love myself even through sin and sorrow and suffering and traumas. And I learned how to love them through sin and sorrow and suffering and traumas. And still, I am this divine being who is still on this mission that Heavenly Father has given me. And instead, it's like, here's who you used to be. Here's the trauma. Here's who you are now. Let's bring them all together. Let's become one in light and be a full being of light with all of those components of who we are. Okay? A whole lot better than we were before. So it's been a beautiful experience having God teach us the way that He teaches us. And as much as you might want to reverse time, it's not worth it. This opportunity to learn through these incredibly painful trials is a beautiful growth experience. The way that some of my life coaches call it, they call it an accelerated growth experience or accelerated growth opportunity. That's their way of saying horrific, difficult trial that we sometimes wish didn't happen. An accelerated growth opportunity. It's the positive spin on things. So, and as you heard, you guys, I've been through real trials. I'm not sitting here like I've never really been through anything, you know, nothing hard has happened. You guys just need to learn how to do it. No, like we've been there and it is possible, but it's a work in progress. We're all still learning. If we're all still really preparing for the second coming and preparing for a more godly belief system and thought pattern, this is one of the steps that we need to be able to get past. Okay. Okay, everybody. So we'll stay on after we finish the recording, but I just want to send you love. And I really hope that these forgotten memories are something that you guys really put some time into and cherish, because they are something that we have actually been doing these for about a year and a half. And we just recently decided we need to put these on the website. This was actually one of the reasons why we decided to put it on the unfinished documents was the forgotten memories themselves. Like that was kind of the purpose in my head. I was like, we have got to get the forgotten memories out there. Like we have been using them for a very, very long time, but the document is unfinished because there's still something missing and I don't know what it is. And so that is when we decided to just put it out there for you. Even though it's not perfect, it is so incredibly important. And anybody who's worked one-on-one with us, you know, through different traumas, you probably have gone through the forgotten memories with us. If not, I apologize, because they are quite an opportunity. But we usually give them as homework assignments. We're usually like, we can only do so much. This is going to take a long time. So work on these and allow them to change you God's way. Okay. We love you.
Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.